Hello there, folks. I'm Dan Brown from Sort of Interesting, and today I would like to introduce you to episode 1 of my ongoing model railway build blog. Whatever the actual title is going to be called, it'll be some combination of those words. And basically, in this first one, I just want to introduce my general layouts and my ideas and plans and what's behind it and what my hopes and aims are in the world of building model railways. So, firstly, I think it's important to give you a sneak peek at where my layout currently is, which will be on the screen right now, which is just after where we're going to get up to in this video, as I want to talk about the beginnings and the basics and the whys and the hows, really, rather than give you this incredible in-depth run-up to how my layout's coming along. So, I would say that personally, I think that the first thing I want to say is that I love model railways. I've always loved sort of little villages and miniature things, and as a kid I used to build model railway scenery and little bridges and things like that, but I never had an actual railway or trains or anything to use them with. And it was, again, just one of those things that I used to do as a nerdy kid. I used to love doing Airfix models, and in probably a couple of years ago started to get back into that, but obviously I was living on a boat and stuff, and things didn't quite work out. And well, anyway, ultimately I'm now somewhere that I've totally upended my living arrangements to give myself effectively a bed sit with a new spare room that has become the train room with nothing other than a model railway in it. This isn't a build that I'm intending to do quickly, not only because doing all the scenery and everything is going to be incredibly time consuming and a slow process, well, I'm obviously trying to do my writing and live an actual life and go to an actual real job and all that sort of stuff as well, but also because of the nature of this sort of stuff being prohibitively expensive to get into, which I think I'm over the bulk of that initial purchase of getting the track and the amount of track that I wanted and so on. It'll just be buying a few more bits of rolling stock, buildings and money spent on scenery and things like that going forwards, because I am obviously having to buy all this stuff from absolute scratch, having no previous experience in the world of model railways. And so, as I say, therefore, none of the equipment for the basic layout in the first place, or the modelling supplies and things like that, or even the tools for modelling and so on. So in time and cost, I'm going to take this nice and slow. I'm not going to try and rush it, and I'm literally expecting this to go on for months and months and months on end. And even then, it's one of those things that there's always room to expand a bit more, so I'll probably start doing just smaller scenes to add on to my main layout in the future too. So that's a bit of the general reasoning behind what I'm doing and my time scale. Like, it's an endless job which will never be completed. So the first thing that I did was buy a basic beginner's set, really, from Hornby, the West Coast Highlander set. I've got a separate YouTube channel literally just dedicated to the train videos, which I will be doing regular videos on all of the different individual buildings I put together and different things that I buy and different sets and what have you. So that's Sort of Interesting Trains, link in the description. If you want to see any of the things that you're seeing footage from in depth and the full videos, then please do head over there and have a look. So basically, oh man, how red in the face am I? Because I've been in the cold all day. My apologies if I'm looking like, well, I don't know, a very red person. But basically, as I say, I started with this simple single oval layout with a siding, and then expanded that with the Hornby track expansion packs from pack B to D. So that gave me two ovals, an inner siding and an outer siding. Forgive me if I'm not using the correct terms. This is early in my railway life still. So the reason that I did that is because I wanted to just complete that basic layout first and see how I felt about it, and whether I wanted to keep it like that and then build everything in terms of scenery and that around that simple starter's layout. And then what I as well wanted to get to grips with was exactly how all of the track and supplying electric to different parts of the track and all of that sort of stuff worked as well. So I feel that was a very good way to go about it. It may not be the most cost-effective way, because obviously I end up with bits of track that I haven't actually ended up using in my current layout and all of that sort of overall like leftovers, I suppose you would call it, but there's always going to be chances to use that further down the line, to use the train term there, I suppose, no pun intended. So that sort of got me thinking and gave me a lot of food for thought, thinking, how much of a layout, how big do I want this layout to be, and what other possibilities are there. And so what I ultimately ended up doing was sticking with a 2 oval layout idea, with one inner side in as well that'll lead to an industrial zone, like the Crystal Maze here, the industrial zone. Come on, team. Anyway, what am I doing in this video? You can tell I've been on my feet all day and I'm a bit flustered. I even dropped me notes now. 1 second. Oh, flipping heck, struggling there. So yeah, I've got loads here to talk about. So basically, what I decided to do as I was fiddling with the original layout is use the inner radiuses, as the curves are slightly bigger, to obviously be able to go round corners and have multiple rungs of track within each other, if that makes any sense as a sentence. And I thought, basically, I would use the smaller curves, which would normally give you a smaller oval, but I would add a small straight in the middle of them, so that it gave a squarer, more squared off set of ovals, rather than the sort of more round, well, the completely curved ends from one straight curve in a full 180 degrees, I think, and then back to obviously go the other direction. So basically now it's sort of almost a straight, a bit of a corner, a straight, a bit of a corner, and then you're going back in the direction. You'll see in a second, and you saw in that sneaky peek there as well. So I'll give you an in-depth look at what I'm intending with this layout in just a second, from a very echoey room, I'm afraid, but I'll draw you a diagram and that. But basically, the reason I wanted to do it that way, with the sort of more blunt, I would describe it, more blunt corners, is because it allows me to have a wider sort of inner area, but without having a full sort of curve on each end, taking up more room and elongating the layout. Because at the minute, the bottom part of this layout is actually my writing desk as well, as I've had to sacrifice my 2 actual writing desks to act as just the base to go underneath the baseboard itself. So if that makes any sense, I hope it does have some sort of significance to and relevance to what I'm doing in the other room there. But yeah, I'll let you see the proper talk through my layout and plans right now. So then, my friends, you'll have to forgive the incredible echo in this room, but just to give you a general idea of what my layout is going to be like and what the setup is hopefully going to become, we are going to pretend that this paper is very roughly and not to scale our baseboard, so it's 4 foot across and it is 7 foot down. Originally 8 foot in length, but I had to cut a foot off it, and I don't think it would have got up the stairs at the full 8 foot length. But I've got plenty of room to expand outwards in any direction in the current room. So within this board, we've now got our inner sort of more square type of track. Ignore that bit there. And then from that, we've got our extra sort of part here, which is just a random little siding, which will go to, well, I'll tell you in a second what it'll go to. And then obviously outside of this, we've got a slightly more ovally shaped track. So that runs, obviously, ignore this very, very rough drawing we've got here. So basically, the reason I wanted this layout rather than the standard Hornby track mat layout is because I wanted to put 2 points between the inner and outer oval, because I love the way the trains and the carriages sort of snake that little S shape as they go from the outer to the inner, and having 2 of them means it can be a continuous run through where it goes half on the outer oval, half on the inner, and then that S-shaped snake on the way back out. So I just love having that and having the trains running as slow as possible. So that's why I wanted this layout, with the 2 ovals still, but with the 2 points between them. And then the reason that I wanted to keep this one short and have this gap here is because I'm hoping that this top section will become a hillside with a tunnel through it. So there'll be a certain amount of, well, almost all of the top end of the curve of the track will be out of sight from the standard sort of viewpoint of this layout. So that'll be a track in a tunnel, and then this will be like a hillside scene which will roll down into all this. Now this side in here, I am hoping, we've currently got my little level crossing track that crosses both of those there with our little gates on it. So what I'm hoping is basically that this part here in the siding will all go to this area here, which will be a little sort of, I don't know if you'd call it a station or loading bay, with a industrial area in the middle here. And again, don't take this as a 2-scale drawing. That could be any amount of distance or any amount of floor space there. I've currently got my little signal box building and little huts and stuff set up just around that side, but those will probably be moved slightly up to that side or the other. Again, plenty of time to figure this out. And then the final grand thing that'll be completed sometime next year, or started probably sometime next year, is this side in here, which at the moment just comes to a very short dead end in this sort of region. But that will one day come down to an area just out of shot here, which will be a canal side wharf with little canal boats and a very small stretch of canal, and then obviously a sort of station loading bay type area with little cranes to act as if they're loading cargo from train to boat or from boat to train. So that's my general layout idea overall. Let's get back to me in the studio, or more trains or something other than this echoey voice. So going forward, I've got to say that I'm already really enjoying spending my evenings building these little Metcalfe cardboard building sets and things like that. And that's really what I love about this, and why I wanted to just go all in and say, yeah, I'm going to actually build myself a model railway. And that's basically because it's so nice having actual real things in an era of everything being on iPhones and apps and digital and virtual this and gaming that. It's so nice to just have actual real things and sit down at a desk and actually put together. Am I getting lower in this shot? Actually, I'll leave that there and I'll zoom in later on in the editing process. Anyway, that was such a random aside. Sorry about that. So basically, I really like just having some actual real physical stuff to sit down and actually put together and construct in real life. So nice, I've got to say that. And one of the things I love about the train itself and the train and it's running around the track is I try and have it running as slowly as possible. And even if I'm not focusing on looking at the train and that, just sort of it being there and just slowly going around, it's so somehow relaxing and calming and hypnotic in the way that it just travels around its endless little journey. And I just absolutely love, though, just fiddling around and making it go down the different sidings and switching the points over so it'll go off one track or it'll miss that and it'll carry on the track it's on. There's just something so nice about that sort of stuff. And I've got to say, I'm really enjoying that. And that's why I don't want to rush this. And I could over the next, as I'm recording this, I've got 12 days off work, booked holiday coming up. Well, literally starting right now, basically. And I could rush through loads of stuff and try and build everything and that. But it's all about the relaxation and enjoying actually putting it all together in the first place, rather than trying to just rush through it all and go, right, the goal is getting to the end setup with it all laid out immaculately. The goal is the journey and the actual construction process itself. That's the fun part. And then having a little model railway at the end of it is just the icing on the cake, I would say. So that's something I'm really just enjoying, just actually sitting down and doing a real physical, actual real life thing, and a bit of analog entertainment, if you will. So that's something I'm enjoying. When I look at my notes here, the general things that I've got to do, so I've got the layout, that's sorted, that's how it's going to be, pretty much dead on. How it's set up now is what it'll be going into the future. Beyond that, though, I would say my next things I want to do is do the buildings and decide on the general idea of the layout, the scenery layout within the track layout. So as I say, I'm having an industrial sort of warehouse and factory zone in the centre of it, in the centre oval. I'm going to have my tunnel and mountainside at the top end going around the outer oval at its far corner. And then beyond that, I think that it's just a case of seeing what sort of buildings, how many trees and bits of scenery and different scenes, maybe like farming sort of scenery or something like that. and seeing how I can build that and construct it, as the canal will be the last thing that I get onto, and it'll be probably on a separate piece of wood that can be added to the current layout. But it's just again a case of trial and error and seeing how it goes and what different effects I can get and all of that sort of stuff. And then I think beyond that, I keep saying beyond that all the time, it's got to be obviously doing things like the weathering effects, the real details and stuff like that. As at the minute, I'm just going to cut out a little bit of paper, just plain paper, and say, right, this is what I want the road to go through to the industrial zone, and this is where I want this piece and that piece, and what I want the ground to be like. And I'm going to plan all that out by cutting out shaped pieces of paper and lay that out within the train track layout. And then, as I add more buildings to it, I can then decide more permanently when I want to start sticking stuff down to the baseboard and all of that, as I've got a clear idea in my mind of, yes, this is going to work, this isn't going to look terrible and be an awful mistake as the future goes on, and I decide, oh, actually I've got half of the room I anticipated and all of this stuff's turning into a disaster. And I think as the months go on now in the run up to Christmas, I think I will actually once again this year have a rare moment of actually saying, oh well, I do actually want something for Christmas this time, which is something I very rarely do. In fact, I think the last thing I asked for was my lovely TWSBI Eco Pen. Oh, absolutely love it. Just that inkwell with all the blue ink sloshing about. Love me pens. Anyway, back on track again. No pun intended. But as it gets towards Christmas and I figure out more and more what I want, I've got a few ideas of different little carriages and wagons and rolling stock that I want to add to my train. And I think I'll probably go for another cheap, simple little steam train as well to add to the tracks too. And I may even be brave and start weathering some of those. But yeah, ultimately, I'm really enjoying it. It's so nice to just be like sat at my desk, train rolling around and spending hours doing these cardboard building sets and that. Anyway, I've talked for way longer than I expected. I didn't want this to be a 16, 17 minute long video. My apologies, my friends, but I have done it in one single take. Even with the cut out to go to the other part, I didn't stop filming this sat in front of the Banana Box Studio part. Right, thank you so much for tuning in. Check the links in the description for loads more random bits and bobs. You'll find real train videos and abandoned railway lines on this channel. You'll find the proper model railway channel I'm doing in the description below as well. And also my books about my life when I used to live out on the canal boat, believe it or not. Until the next time though, my friends, keep it interesting, keep it train-worthy, and of course, my friends, farewell. Have a fantastic day. I'm out. I'm going to bed.